And welcome back, everybody. We've been talking a lot about not just the Ryan plan, but where we are. And certainly the biggest issue facing our country is the economy. Not just jobs here, but the fiscal health of this nation. And one of the issues people point to about the lack of health, arguably, is the disparity in have and have-nots. And it's at a record high right now. Take a look at the changes here just since the 70s. Income gains, when you look at the number one, top 1%, shown in red. I know you make it out here, but it's the top line here. They've gone way up here and increasing by more than 28%. Income gains in the bottom fifth of the population, shown in blue, they've increased by about 16%. The last time you saw this kind of a gap was you got to go back to the 20s. Go to the way left of your chart here and then go to the way right. See the commonality? That was right before the Depression, and that is the gap between the 1% here and the rest. Meanwhile, according to a poll in late 2011, about 48% of young adults believe their generation will be worse off than their parents. Congresswoman, you mentioned your son just graduated in the last couple of weeks here. Yeah. Do you think the pessimism shared by the majority of respondents in there, that things are getting worse and they won't do as well as their moms or dads, let alone grandparents, is well-founded?
That's why I ran for office in 2010, because we are uniquely on the basis of domestic fiscal policy and not on the basis of war expenditures. Because when at the end of World War II, our national debt also equaled GDP.
We also had the last decade of wars, but let's move on.
Well, yes, but not at the same scale. I agree, and I am all in favor of ending our involvement in Afghanistan, certainly withdrawing the majority of our troops, but as most of the Congress at this point, to my knowledge. But the point is that we now face a situation in which the debt that we hold and the obligations that we know are coming, because we have an enormous...
And we're with you. You got four people agree to it, but here's the point that is driving
but this is germane to the economy.
It is, but here it is, Congresswoman. Debt is going to strangle our choices going forward as a nation. Agreed. Next generation's got it worse. You then look at the chart and we say, there doesn't need to be any more handouts here for the top end. There's never been a point in American history where they've been doing better over a shorter period of time. So why in God's name do we have a plan laid out by Ryan, embraced by Romney, and seemingly yourself, that would cut their tax rates yet again and increase the gap once again between have and have-nots? And the cuts for the bottom half, the very bottom, would be decimated, where 4 out of every $5 that go to any of the programs would have to go away under the plan.
Richard,
if we believe things are getting worse, why are we pouring gas on a fire?
Richard, during the past 3 years, Americans in the lowest income brackets have seen a reduction in their potential for prosperity, not an increase.
So you're going to cut their programs?
The only way to grow an economy, no, let's just talk about the general principle we need to serve. The only way to grow an economy
that's just not
is to put.
It's not true. It's not true. If you look at
there
the,
is no such thing as a government multiplier.
If you look at the best period of growth that we had economically in this country, it was the area from 1950 to about the middle of the 1970s, where that's the Ozzie and Harriet area that everybody would like to go back to.
Yes, and let's talk about that.
Well, we're getting further and further away from the policies that we had in that era as we've seen that gap increase.
Okay. Most people's frame, and I've talked about this to a lot of different friends of all different persuasions, most people's frame of reference, like yours and mine, in the modern era, so to speak, starts with post-World War II, at which point the Americans stood as a colossus over a devastated world. We were the lucky ones, right? We were intact and capable and ready to move over a devastated rest of the planet. No longer the case. Now we compete globally, and we have to acknowledge that and move
we never,
on that basis.
Ever in our history gave tax cuts at a time of war, and in that time period, in that Ozzie and Harriet, under Eisenhower, you know what the tax rate for the top 1% was? 70%. And you guys want to go to 25%.